Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday meditation gathering. I'm so glad you're all here to share this time together. Meditation gathers energy when we meditate together. This week we have Douglas Crawford, who will lead us in meditation, and then we'll have 20 minutes of silence. After that, we're going to open it up for sharing, and we end at 10:45. Over to you, Douglas.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning and welcome, everybody. I feel inspired to read a short passage from The Journey Through the Text by Kenneth Wapnick. I don't know if you're all acquainted with this, but this is just one of, I think it's 5 or 6 volumes just on the text. And I'm just coming to I've got 3 pages left. It's been like a 3-year project just reading this. Now, this particular topic is about process, about the steps that we have to take on this journey. So there's several quotes from the Course, and then Kenneth comments on them. So this is from the Course. Salvation does not seek to use a means as yet too alien to your thinking to be helpful, nor to make the kinds of change you could not recognize. And then Kenneth says, process is another major theme in our symphony. Forgiveness is not something we do quickly, leaping from a self of innocence and its underlying guilt into the arms of the big self, for which there is no concept. We need first to change our self-concept to a right-minded one that benignly reflects true innocence instead of the ego's false face of sin. Recall the end of chapter 27, where Jesus comforts us that we do not directly awaken to reality from nightmares. Rather, we go gently from nightmares to happy dreams, and only then to awakening. We learn at our own pace, not allowing fear to raise insurmountable obstacles to the inevitable change that is our salvation. And then another quote from the Course. This is all from the last chapter, chapter 31. Concepts are needed while perceptions last, and changing concepts is salvation's task. For it must deal in contrast, not in truth, which has no opposite and cannot change. And then Ken says, we again see Jesus explaining why A Course in Miracles is written as it is, replete with concepts of the ego as well as their undoing through forgiveness. All are illusory, but this course comes within the ego framework, using the world's dualistic language and concepts, but with a new meaning. We are not asked to give up the false self. We are simply asked to change the self-concept that we have. In lieu of seeing ourselves as built on the principle of one or the other, we begin to develop a self that sees everyone sharing the same interests and need. To choose the Holy Spirit's sanity of the miracle as the means of undoing the ego's insanity of attack. While a forgiving self, that's the small self, is an illusory concept, it is one that softly leads us on the journey that takes us beyond concepts entirely. Thus we learn to see all things as opposites for unlearning the ego's lessons of guilt and judgment. Though not heaven, these right-minded concepts are the quintessential stepping stones that lead us there. And now the next quote from the Course. Basically, this is a repetition, but deepening into the same theme. Now must the Holy Spirit find a way to help you see this concept of the self. Now must the Holy Spirit find a way to help you see this concept of the self must be undone, if any peace of mind is to be given you. Nor can it be unlearned except by lessons aimed to teach you that you are something else. For otherwise you would be asked to make an exchange for what you now believe for total loss of self, and greater terror would arise in you. Ken comments on this. The concepts of the self we must undo are the face of innocence and the killer's face that it masks. Again, it is a gradual undoing, and we need not fear that we will be abruptly lifted and hurled into reality. The journey we take with Jesus lifts us from the nightmares of the wrong-minded self to the happy dreams of the right-minded self, from which we joyfully awaken to Christ, our true self, with a capital S. And the final quote from the Course, thus are the Holy Spirit's lesson plans arranged in easy steps, that though there be some lack of ease at times and some distress, as we all know, there is no shattering of what was learned, but just a retranslation of what seems to be the evidence on its behalf. And then Ken's final comment. We are speaking of a step-by-step process. As we do not awaken the morning to a non-self, we need not fear learning this course. Nonetheless, over time, and as we practice daily, we develop a self that smiles more frequently. No longer finding mornings to be fearful and conflicted, we are grateful as another day dawns to herald our learning the miracle's valuable lessons that will end our misery. What changes is the decision maker's identification from the wrong-minded self to the right-minded self. The timing of this shift rests solely with us.
Open your eyes slowly and come back into the room. We have 18 minutes left for sharing your reflections and your questions. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand or use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll invite you to take yourself off of mute. If you'd like to ask Douglas a question or a comment with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, and I'll invite you to take yourself off of mute. Douglas, has your life changed dramatically when you've let go of self-concepts over the years?
I still have a lot of self-complex concepts left. What I've got more and more clear about with this journey and witnessing many other people on this journey is that you have to have a, how do you say, a more stable sense of self before you can even imagine letting it go. And as Ken says, that's more a right-minded self rather than a wrong-minded self. And I notice with people on my courses that if they're very troubled and they've had very traumatic childhoods, they need just to be loved and held and very gradually introduce new concepts rather than, and even asking them to be mindful at the beginning can be very, very difficult. They just need to be loved and held until they have a more stable sense of small self. That's what I've witnessed anyway.
Oh, it's very helpful. Thank you. Who'd like to share? Teresa, take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Douglas. It's lovely to see you again, as always. And you know, what you just shared about just being loved rather than introducing new concepts, it sounds a little bit like the Course was saying. The Course isn't here to hurl us into awakening. You know, it's a gentle process. And I found that myself. You know, I sometimes say at nighttime, well, I do say at nighttime, Holy Spirit, please help me to wake up in gratitude. And what because I used to find, and it is shifting, I used to find I would wake up feeling a bit flat and low. But since I've started saying, can you please help me to wake up in gratitude, I am actually waking up with joy, you know. And then what's happening is that my ego is popping in and saying, oh, you still want to stay in the dream, do you? You know, you want to stay here for longer. Well, maybe you can stay here forever and ever. So I'm thinking, maybe I'm saying the wrong thing. Then I recognize that ego has jumped in there with something. And hearing you say today in the reading or something about every day is like a day for more gentle awakening into the happy dream. So every time that I'm recognizing whatever judgments I'm having throughout the day, if as soon as I recognize it, I can either choose to keep it or I can choose to not keep it. And the more I choose not to keep it or hand it over, the happier my day becomes and my life becomes. And, you know, I've been reading about the messengers, and I say the messengers are like angels when you're looking for good stuff, but the messengers of the ego are looking for blood and gore and all that sort of stuff. And I think the news is very much into that area, looking for the worst in everything. So I try not to look too much at the news. Anyway, it's lovely to be everyone together, and it was a wonderful meditation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, when I was on my training with Benny Dansby many years ago, we often did a process called love, praise, and gratitude, where we actually look for things that we're grateful for the other person, or that we like about them, even though it seemed like it was praising the small self. But it's a step.
Yeah. Dennis, did you want to share? Maybe not. Sandy, take yourself off mute.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Douglas. Thank you so much for that. It was lovely to be reminded that, you know, how gentle the process is. You know, I think sometimes we get impatient with it. And, you know, especially when you've been doing it for quite a long time, you sort of feel the ego comes in saying, why aren't we there yet? Sort of thing, as you were saying, Teresa. And, you know, it reminded me how loving that is. You know, that there's a God that's that loving, that wants it, you know, us to not be jolted into it, that it wants us to be gently awakened. And, you know, that then we can slowly surrender to it. And I think, you know, I've noticed that over the years. When I first started out, I had a great fear of, you know, leaving people behind, and all sorts of reasons why I didn't want to sort of progress along the path to awakening. But gradually the course has helped with that. And I found with the reading that you did today, that was a lovely lead into the meditation. And I was being shown that it's like just gently feeding us with a beautiful a tea that's a healing tea, and that it slowly dilutes everything else that is the old concepts, and that then at some point that will completely dilute it, so that it's no longer a dilution. It will be just the tea, and we'll be that presence. So it was a really lovely, peaceful meditation for me, and feeling much more open in my heart, feeling, you know, that I can let go of that fear of those last few steps, that, you know, it's going to be very gentle. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Yeah, as you were sharing that, I was thinking of, I mean, I've been doing this, 34 years, although time is totally relative, but some of the most intense feelings I've been having have been actually in the last year or so, and in feelings of intense boredom and total meaninglessness. And if I had got in touch with those, say, 20 years ago, I don't think I could have handled them.
Yeah.
The build-up has been gradual, and then finally I'm ready to look at this. I mean, even lesson one, nothing I see means anything. When I did that lesson totally intellectually, I couldn't feel it. Now I'm actually beginning to feel lesson one after all this time.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Would like to share? Douglas, what's the happy dream like for you?
It's getting more and more constant, seeking my own company more and more. This year particularly. Even last year, I was always seeking company to fill the gap, the emptiness. But I'm actually now seeking my own company, and that is a good sign for me that that I'm on the right track. Yeah, more and more, I could say, more samey. I don't know if that's an English word, but a more steady feeling of neutrality, actually. Yeah. Of course, to the ego, that sounds boring, but it actually isn't.
Thank you. Who'd like to
Thank
share?
you.
Linda.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Douglas, because I've always been like a butterfly. I've got lots of friends, lots of acquaintances. I love helping people. But now I love my own company and being with God. I just love it. And I'm finding I'm doing it more and more. I've dropped helping where I used to help, with no feeling of, oh, I've let them down, I've done this. And what's brought it about was something that was really quite dramatic about my car. It got written off, and for 4 months, I thought I was going to have a breakdown. And I now know that I want that space of expansion, love, light, and I don't need to go looking outside for it. I'm so grateful you've said that today, because that's where I am. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to know we're all the same in this journey. We have the same steps.
Yes.
And it sounds like you let go of a level of people pleasing.
That's right. I've looked at all this about myself, this people pleasing. What did it give me? It didn't. I loved it at the time, but it took all my time up from wanting to be. I've always searched for God, always, since I've been little. But I got wandered off the path. But it's never stopped calling me. So, yes, at this age, yes, 76 years, and I'm thinking, well, I haven't got much longer left now. Could be any time. I want to be ready for it now. So, don't know why I'm saying all this for. It's just popping out of my mind, my mouth. So I'm just so thrilled you've said that.
Oh,
so
thank
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, who'd like to share? Sandy, would you like to share?
Yeah, I just think we're all just really enjoying being in this beautiful, peaceful space that you've given us today, Douglas. And it's I can just feel it. It's so palpable, and I can see it on everybody's faces here. There's just this screen of bliss in front of me. It's lovely. So yeah, I think we're all just soaking it up. Yeah, thank you.
It's a good reflection of yourself, Sandy.
Well, we're all just reflections of one another, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Teresa?
You're muted. Oh yeah.
I don't know if I can relate this little story. I just feel like sharing it. This little story that came up this morning. I had a dream. I tend to have my dreams more in the morning, just before I wake up, I think. Anyway, sometimes I do. Anyway, it felt so real, the dream, all the characters in the dream. And I knew I was dreaming. I knew that it was just a dream. And I thought, when I woke up, I thought there was very little difference between my night dream and my daydream, and it was showing me difference between my night dream and my daydream, so similar. And I thought, what is this for? I just felt I got a real sense that it's about bringing the two, helping me to see. I'm very easy to know that the night dream is not real, but it isn't easy for me to know that my daydream is not real. So it's just bringing those two ideas together, which can actually make me feel a little bit disorientated. And I know the course talks about that. But I thought I would just share that because it was interesting for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, all our time is spent in dreaming.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time together. Thank you, Douglas. That was a wonderful sharing that you did. And take yourself off mute and show your appreciation to Douglas.
Thank you,
Thank
Douglas.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. That was
Lovely
wonderful.
time with you all.
Lovely
Thanks,
speaking
Douglas.
to English
Thank
group.
you, everyone. Love you all.
Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day.